Welcome back to another expanded episode of Solomon's Gold series. At this point, we have well proven that Sheba, the ancestor of the Queen of Sheba, is from the brother of Ophir and not the wrong Sheba in Ethiopia. Now, we've covered the goat lady with the legs and hoof of a goat. Go back and watch all of those videos, and we expose that pretty greatly. There are two in the Table of Nations, and somehow almost all scholars play utterly stupid and forget it. There are two. And take the story right in the middle of the story of Ophir, which the right Sheba is the brother of Ophir, and migrated with him to the Far East. Talk about a duh. The progression is Solomon builds a new port and navy on the Red Sea. I know scholars can't remember that this accesses the Indian Ocean because they don't know geography. They're lousy at it. And I mean, even some of the greatest scholars today have no clue how to read a map. We've proven that very well. But they did not build on the Mediterranean. So basically, they're dumb enough to actually assert that this navy increased the already established trade route by a factor of 4 to go to Spain or Britain in the dumbest form of scholarship imaginable. I mean, it just is amazing that they could even call themselves scholars and say such dumb things. Solomon's admiral was Hiram, king of Tyre, the Phoenician, whose ships already ruled the Mediterranean, already trading as far as Spain and Britain. But we are supposed to believe the wisest king, at least in that era, just spent all that money to go to places in which his admiral already traded. Duh. They aren't scholars on this topic. They're not using the most basic of logic. So Solomon's navy then goes to Ophir to fetch gold. That's what the story says, not Spain or Britain, which would be, well, stupid. Ophir and Tarshish are in the same region. They have the same resources, islands in the Far East, and this we have well proven as the Philippines at this point. Solomon's navy fetches the gold of Ophir, and that ends 1 Kings chapter 9. So is that the end of the story? Well, no, because the next chapter, 10, starts with, and. Well, what's that mean? It means it's a continuation of the same story. And when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, now they didn't just go, they're in Ophir. That's where they are. They didn't move. They didn't jump. They didn't jump in a jet and fly across the earth back to Ethiopia. I mean, they're not even thinking when they say these kinds of really dumb things. Very basic directions here. So, and when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of Yahuwah, whoa, she knew that? Yes, she did. She also knew the covenant because she is basically applying it. But you'll see. She came to prove him with hard questions. So this was not some harlot queen that in the Hollywood movie came to dance as a harlot for Solomon to seduce him. No such affair happened, nor could it have, because Solomon too was holy at this point. So it is ludicrous and ridiculous to say that that happened. That is not a Bible story. It is only an occult story. There's really nothing to debate or discuss on this story other than just how poorly academia and scholarship has totally screwed this up and infused it with occult narratives, and they don't even know this story. That's the reality. When Genesis 10 records 2 Shebas, and one is the actual brother of Ophir, and Solomon's navy is in Ophir at the time, well, it's pretty settled, right? This can only be the Sheba from Joktan, the brother of Ophir, never the one in Africa, which is in the wrong direction, the wrong son of Noah even, because he must be from Shem. Ophir is from Shem. And has never been known as Ophir legitimately, because there's only one Ophir in the Bible, and he never lived in Africa. Duh. The queen then arrives in Israel at the same time as Solomon's navy because, well, she returned with them, obviously. She travels to Jerusalem from the Red Sea port on, well, the most obvious transport of that day for the 300 plus kilometer journey that she had to get to Jerusalem from the Red Sea port. And she had tons of gold, spices, precious stones, and an entire entourage. Yeah, she needed camels. No, she did not bring them with her, and anyone thinking in such direction, we've seen that a lot in comments, is challenged to even read, yet you will hear such stupidity even from so-called scholars. Again, they can't read. They're not scholars. She then offers the same gifts as Hiram, Solomon's admiral, because, well, they came from the same place, Ophir, and that is not in Africa. She does so at the same time as Hiram as well. Yet scholars think they can ignore all of that, all of that actual detail that the Bible gives. Oh, no, it's allegory. I mean, really? It's amazing to us when we hear, even from the director at National Historical, that, well, isn't the Bible allegory? You mean when it says that Solomon brought 424 talents of gold? What? It was 4 talents? Or maybe it was 40 talents? I mean, what exactly are you saying? I mean, how could that be allegory? It's an exact number. I mean, this is unfortunately the mindset of a lot of academia and scholarship, and it's stupid, outright stupid. Scholars think they can ignore this, disconnect it, and again play dumb on the whole thing. Not here, they won't. Not and get away with it. This famous queen was offering the same oblation of Adam. That's what this is about. And it's not about gold as money, as currency. It's about the sentimental value because this was Adam's first sacrifice. That's why these resources matter to Yahuwah in the first place. He doesn't need money. Gold from Havilah, which is Ophir, and Sheba. Spices such as frankincense and myrrh from Havilah, which is Ophir and Sheba after the flood. And precious stones are added, good for her. Hiram does the same. Same offerings. The 3, really 6 or more kings later in the time of Messiah offer these same to him 2 years after his birth. Watch we 3 kings of Philippines are. They also originated from these same lands, Ophir, Sheba, and Tarshish, which is the Philippines. We prove it there. Try to debate that on this video. You will be muted for attempting such in ignorance. When we prove something not in a video, you will watch it if you wish to try to debate. Otherwise, you'll be muted. Our channel, our rules. But do we find elements and residual etymologies of the word and family name Sheba in the Philippines? Ah, indeed we do. We have covered many already, but this video will specifically focus on maps that we haven't covered that do so. We know the etymology of the word Sheba and the words Cebu are a match for one, as far as ancient Hebrew is concerned. And we've well covered that as well in our book, The Search for King Solomon's Treasure, available free in ebook at ophirinstitute.com. However, are there more maps which demonstrate that area or even the Philippines as a whole in region as Sheba? Yes, there are, and here we go. Buckle up. In our last video, finding Catagara, Ptolemy's land of gold, firmly as the Philippines, as Magellan corrected Ptolemy, pinpointing the exact location, which was his destination, not the Spice Islands, which is a misunderstanding and really an outright lie, but really misunderstanding what he said. He wasn't coming to the Philippines to tell Filipinos, oh, I'm here to take your gold. Duh. Sometimes scholars just can't think things through, even little. So, as Magellan, Columbus basically were also after the gold first. You know, Columbus gold, God glory, right? He wanted the gold, not spices. He'll take the spices too, they were valuable, but his number one purpose was gold. Magellan's number one purpose was Ophir, Tarshish, Katagara, the land of gold. That's where they were going, period. And that's where he charted. He did not chart a course to the Spice Islands. Magellan knew where they were. He'd been there for Portugal as an explorer previously. That was his previous position. So did Barbosa, his brother-in-law, who was with him. So there's really no question to any of that. He landed right where he planned to land, in the Philippines, the land of gold. It's all in Pigafetta's journal. Watch that video for evidence. Now, there's nothing to debate, so don't try on this video, because you will be muted for trying in ignorance. Our channel, our rules. Ptolemy, however, was very confused and only knew names in the area of the Philippines. He missed the entire Pacific Ocean, so let's not pretend that he was an expert, as the British treat him, really stupidly, on Southeast Asian geography. He's no expert at all. It's non-existent on his mappings. You got to be kidding. Notice, though, beyond the Sunda Islands here on this map, though they are drawn by Burma, which is nonsense, of course. They're much further east, and all of these islands are. You'd have to move them all much further east, and they will be in time. We'll see they progress on maps, and we can see it comes to light. These islands are not there, but further past the Malay Peninsula. And again, no surprise for that day, is maps in that era, well, they completely omit the Malay Peninsula and Indochina. Those don't even exist. They have India on the coast, running right into China. Well, that's never been accurate. We all know that. No surprise. And again, in time, this would progress. Ptolemy did not go there either, as even Pigafetta pointed out, and he corrects all cosmographers from Ptolemy to his time, all of them regarding Katagara. However, on the next group of islands here, you can see Saba di Ba, or Siba di Ba, actually. Now again, out of place, and Ptolemy did not know the geography of this area, but he knew this was in the Far East, just not specifically where. No surprise. This becomes Siba di Ba on maps as we progress. You'll see, we'll get there. Siba or Sheba are the same word, as there is no actual H or He in the Hebrew word interpreted as Sheba. It's just SBA. Shin can be S or SH either. Nothing wrong with saying Sheba, it's fine, but it could be either. That's the reality. But it's SBA, or SB, could be an ein on the end, which is an A when placed at the end of a Hebrew word much of the time. We've had people ask about that in comments, so there you go. There's a perfect example of that, so you can see it. It can be pronounced Siba or Sheba. Then we look at the local language in the Philippines. Diba is a very common word. It means, is it? Really? Essentially. In other words, Sheba. Is it? Diba? Or is it Sheba? Some may think maybe it's Sabah, Malaysia. Really still Philippine territory, not Malaysia legally, so wouldn't matter in essence. But remember that. However, we'll show you this is a reference which progresses, and you'll see, to the entire Philippines in actuality. Ptolemy is piecing this together based on legends, based on things that he knew, but he really didn't have the full view. And he wasn't aware of the magnitude and significance of the Philippines. This is actually why the British came into Malaysia and Indonesia, and well, they played dumb, forgetting and ignoring all the Portuguese and Spanish data, including the 1492 Behind Globe, which maps the Philippines as the land of gold, as Columbus and Magellan, who firmly found the same. Magellan physically found it there. Just because British scholars choose to be idiots doesn't mean the rest of us have to be. Ophir has been located, and we well prove this. The British never do, and they never even present an argument. They don't present a case because they ignore Ophir, the Philippines, in finding Ophir. It's just not even on the map at all. So they'll never find it. You talk about the blind leading the blind, as Messiah called the same Pharisees, really. Here's another 15th century rendering of Sheba as Sabbath Diba. Is it? Is it Sheba? Yep, it sure is. And here's another of Ptolemy from 1545 showing Saba Diba, Saba or Siba or Sheba. Diba, is it? Indeed it is. And here's another reconstruction from Ptolemy, Ptolemy being the 2nd century, but this was created in 1578. So you can see the consistent mindset is there. Same Saba, Diba, yep, it is. We also know in Hebrew the word Sheba or Siba, same word, means oath or 7, referring really to the first Sabbath on the 7th day at creation. Where did that happen? In the land of creation, the Philippines. However, Cebu in etymology leads to the same in Hebrew. Shebu or Cebu, Shabua or Sabua, has the same meaning, oath, because that is when Adam formed the first covenant, and it means week or 7, for again, the 7th day of creation. These are the same word. This is the same Hebrew word as the biblical feast of Shavuot, Shabua. There is no such word in ancient Hebrew as Shavuot, by the way. It is Shabua in Hebrew. Never could be pronounced Shavuot because there is no V in ancient Hebrew. We'll continue to because it's just too well known that way, even though it's completely wrong. And it does not have a T at the end either, but it ends in AH. Not sure how much more this synagogue of Satan could screw up even the language, showing that they are not Hebrews. They don't speak ancient Hebrew, they speak Yiddish, and they are clueless of ancient Hebrew, very obviously. They were never Hebrews, but impostors, and they remain so. The synagogue of Satan, who say they are Yahudim and are not, but do lie. Revelation 2:9 and 3:9. We were warned by Messiah. We even oddly find a reference in name for the Isle of Cebu as, in 1646, this map records it as Sabbat, or the very word for Sabbath in Hebrew. Again, an exact match to Sheba. Same thing. How did that get there? Well, this area is the land of creation where the first Sabbath took place. That's how. Now, we've proven that. Well proven that in this series. Watch it or read our book, The Search for King Solomon's Treasure. What better place to restore his Sabbath and his law than this very land of creation? Well, Isaiah is clear many times. This will happen in the Philippines. Watch part 9. Also, Yahusha himself says so, as does Ezekiel. Again, Cebu, Shabua, is also a reference to Sabbath 7, same meaning in Hebrew as Sheba, Siba. Then we start to see what Ptolemy was really talking about. He didn't know, and that's no surprise. He lived in the 2nd century. They were still trying to reconnect some of these ancient concepts, especially the land of gold that the Romans lost. See, it was the Greek land of gold. It was the Hebrew land of gold. It was continued for 1,000 years, but it was lost at this point. But not completely. It still survived in Pomponius Mela and many things that we've covered. And it continues all the way throughout. I mean, we have thousands of years of history here, folks. This isn't just some speculation. We're not making a claim. We've proven this. And that's why no one will disprove it, nor have they in over 5 years. Here's a map of the Far East, and that is firmly the Philippines, with the entire archipelago labeled as Sheba. Diba? Is it Sheba? Indeed it is. This is the land, according to Matthew 12:42, of the Queen of the South, who will rise in judgment with this generation, the final one, and condemn it, already beginning to happen. For she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Yes, this is where the Queen of Sheba, the Queen of the South, originated, and Cebu and Iloilo still carry the name Queen of the South to this very day. That, my friends, is no coincidence. In the 1657 map of the world, here is the Philippines labeled as Sheba. Sheba. Diba? Is it? Yes, it is Sheba. Then we have an alternative spelling and pronunciation for Cebu as Zebu, Z-E-B-U. Now that also fits the Hebrew, which renders the word with a sad, T-S, at the beginning for a Z sound even. Yes, that is a direct Hebrew word. Zebu, T-S-E-B-U. Again, very similar in definition in Hebrew. This word means properly will, which matches oath to the law in Sheba and Shabua, really. Concretely, an affair as a matter of determination, very similar to oath. Purpose, very similar to oath. This all fits the other two words, really. And then we have take captive. Definitively, this fits because what do? We surrender to Yahuwah. He takes us captive, now in a good and righteous way, of course. We have an affair with him in relationship, right? However, notice, this is the age of the Spanish coming up on maps here, and one must wonder if maybe they were not changing it to Zebu with a Z, T-S in Hebrew, in order to tip their hand a little here, that they wanted to trick the Philippines into having an affair with another god, with idols brought by Magellan and originally only worshipped by Hindus, not Filipinos, such as the king of Cebu, who was not a Filipino at all, but a Hindu from Sumatra. The Filipinos, like Lapu-Lapu, killed Magellan for doing so. Here's a 1734 map showing Zebu, Zebu, just as Pigafetta called it, Zebu, Z-U-B-U, or Z-Z-U-B-U, is what he has in his journal several times. Again, we are in the same word range here for Sheba, folks, in Hebrew. Here's 1794, and it's rendered with an S now, as Cebu, but S, not C, all leading to the same Hebrew words that surround Sheba. In 1855, we see Z-E-B-U, Zebu, again. And in 1893, Sebo, S-E-B-O-E. Notice none of these show Cebu with a C, and there was no C in ancient Philippine languages in this area in ancient times. Why did Spain change the name to a C instead? That's the question. Clearly, the Jesuits wanted to conceal the direct connection in Hebrew to Sheba, because it's right there on maps, folks. We're looking at it right now. As we have covered many times, the 1492 Behind Globe, as well as others, at what many would term the peak of Portuguese exploration in Southeast Asia. A map commissioned by the very Portuguese government. This wasn't just created by somebody who wanted to create a map here. This is the Portuguese government commissioned this map, and it's using their current data. You do not get better history than that. It is not antiquated data, which the British would try to bring back and take everything back more than 1,000 years in utter stupidity. Christ, or Ophir in Hebrew, Christ in Greek, the land of gold, was Luzon Island, Philippines. Argyre in Greek, or Tarshish in Hebrew, the land of silver, was and remains Mindanao, Philippines. These islands didn't move. The famous land of pearl in all of antiquity, Thilis or Tylos or Tile, otherwise known as Antilles or Antilia, watch that video on Antilia, we prove it, is Palawan Island, Philippines, the land of pearl. And the map even places Maniola, which anyone capable of even a little bit of logic, they can ridicule it all they want, but that ridicule is utterly stupid when you have actual data on a Portuguese government map showing that Maniola was always referring to the shoals in the Philippines, period. And obviously, anyone can look at that and see we're talking Manila, duh. All of this has been right there all along. These were not in question. Columbus was headed here and Magellan found it, period. And then the British ignore both because they are illiterate on the topic. They never debated it. They don't have a debate. The debate has always been settled. The Philippines is this ancient land of gold in every way possible, and we've proven it. Again, we covered this in detail last video. It was the British who forgot history. Duh, in willing ignorance, taking everything back to over 1,000 years earlier, to the age of Ptolemy, to the 2nd century, in utter stupidity, in the dumbest unacademic so-called scholarship one could ever apply, to then use their debate in stupidity and lacking reason in every way. Well, you can do that if you want. You'll lose every time. Their stupidity, however, does not have to be our pitfall. We can all know better and expose them, which we have done on this channel many times over. So there you have it. Once again, Sheba, Philippines, indisputably. Sheba, diba? Is it Sheba? Indeed, it is. The Philippines has always been Ophir, Sheba, Tarshish, and the land above the Garden of Eden. No one can truly debate this, and they certainly can't disprove it, or they would have by now, and they can't. It's been over 5 years, folks. This is fact. The Philippines is Sheba, from where the Queen of Sheba originated. The wealthiest woman, likely of all time, was a Filipina. How about that? We have over 400 videos on this channel, one for every day of the year now, many just as profound, with some 50 or so in Tagalog for Filipinos, and now 6 in Spanish to start. We also have been setting up subtitles for 20+ languages for most of our videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell for notifications of new uploads. But join our email list, as YouTube, well, they just forget. They just forget to notify often. And we will notify you ourselves at thegodculture.com. Just fill in the pop-up there. We now have alternative platforms for videos on Rumble, Odyssey, and Utreon. And our podcast is also available for all of our videos as well, pretty much. All links in the description box. Friend us on Facebook at The God Culture, space original. If you prefer an alternative, we now have Parler as well. Link below. We now have 6 books published internationally, being read in over 100 countries, with our new release now available, the first book of Enoch, the oldest book in history, and we prove it. Read the introduction for yourself. We also have now launched Ophir Philippines Coffee Table Book in the US, Canada, and UK, and many overseas markets on Amazon. And it's available in hardcover or softcover there on Amazon. We still have it in the Philippines as well. Additionally, we launched the Book of Jubilees, the Torah calendar, with color maps and interior, just as we have for the first book of Enoch. They're all available in hardcover color, soft color, cover color, or black and white. Either way, up to you. That too is available on Amazon for both of those books, Jubilees and Enoch. All books, including Solomon's Treasure, are now free in ebook. Just go to ophirinstitute.com for all the links for your area for all of our books and more coming soon. Thank you for watching. Now always remember, prove all things for yourself. Yah bless to everyone.